Now will we see the magic?
All right, where's Murray? Okay, who is it?
This is Jesus, kid.
Know then that it is the year 10,191.
Yes, we are bored. We're all bored now.
Hi, good night.
Good night.
Hello, and welcome to Mary vs. the Movies with your host, Mary Jones.
And Dennis Ling.
Here it is. It's summertime.
What number episode is this?
198. I know. Is that not crazy?
Wow.
Yeah, we're coming up on a big one soon. So, it's summertime. Certain movies always you associate with summer. Mm-hmm. And I like to put them on. I like to watch them. They're Jaws, of course.
Cue the winged serpent. Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Anyway. You're rolling over my joke.
Sorry.
It's okay. The point being, one of those movies I like to watch in the summertime, late summer. That's important. American Graffiti.
Yeah.
American Graffiti is a classic film. It came out, 1972?
I think so, yeah.
72, 73, something like that.
You haven't seen THX 1138, right?
I have not.
Yeah, that's not really in our view, but... Yeah.
No, but it's George Lucas. Before he ever made Star Wars, he made a film called American Graffiti. It's kind of doing a thing that other films would copy. Dazed and Confused lifts heavily from this.
Yeah.
And then stuff like Superbad, and whatnot. Like any sort of, here's a bunch of teens, one crazy night on the town, that type of movie, especially if there's like anything like nostalgic about it, right?
Is there movies before this that were like it?
Not exactly. That's the thing, and that's what's interesting about this movie. So it's made in like the early 70s, but it's set in 1962, I think. It's 1962, and it's a group of teenagers in Northern California, kind of their last night together before they're all going to kind of break off and go their own ways, because one of them is going to go off to college. They're all kind of staring down, we graduated from high school. What is the rest of our life going to be, right? And it's that sort of cusp between adulthood and childhood. Who is going to go off and leave the hometown? Who is going to stick around? Who knows what's going to happen to them, right? And it's just kind of life in a small town. Because of when it was made in the early 1970s, it is all about the world before Kennedy was shot, right? And it's actually kind of the world before the Beatles were big.
Yeah.
It's the world before, basically the 60s were the 60s. This is when the 60s were still kind of the 50s.
Yeah.
And so it's all about cruising culture and going, driving up and down the strip and listening to music and hanging out with your friends and listening to the radio and that type of, I'm in love with Modern Moonlight in the neon when it's cold outside. I'm in love with rock and roll like a Roadrunner.
Yeah.
That's literally, in fact, I feel like the song Roadrunner and American Graffiti, they kind of come out around the same time. Roadrunner might be a year earlier, might not. I don't think George Lucas ever heard Roadrunner, but, they're both tapping into this nostalgia for childhood, but not childhood, like early adulthood, right?
It's weird. It's such a well-defined time in all in like cinematic memory and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like 12 years, maybe?
It's not a long period of time between the two.
Like, like before the 50s, it's the war, and people are recovering, and then kind of teenagers become this thing.
Exactly. So it's kind of also about when did teenagers become a thing? When did you kind of reach that, space between childhood and adulthood where, you have this whole sense of possibility. And like a lot of this is tied, as you're alluding to that post-war American expansion. This was sort of the country at its zenith, really. Mm-hmm. And to be a boomer, meant it was all kind of laid at your feet.
And there's suburbs spreading all over the place.
Yeah. It's a fascinating movie. And the people in it, it kind of stars, if you want to say stars. You have Ron Howard and Sidney Williams are like one couple. And, you have a couple other actors in it. Most probably...
I really like Ron Howard in this.
Well, because here's the thing. In American Graffiti, again, it's like 1972 or whatever. This is before Happy Days. This is why we have Happy Days.
This is not Opie.
No, it's not. It's not. But it's funny because George Lucas makes this film, and this film is a huge hit. And partially it's a hit because of like the soundtrack, but it's just this huge hit, and it sort of, it doesn't kick off a wave of 50s nostalgia because you already had Sha Na Na, right? And they played at Woodstock, and the fact that there was already a nostalgic act at Woodstock is really interesting, right? There's a lot to unpack with that. It's not like that wasn't already something that was growing, because there is this kind of cutoff, right? Once Kennedy is shot, and then less than 2 months later, the Beatles come to America and kick off the British invasion. There is like a moment where it like kind of the culture changes. And this movie is about like right before that. This kind of, I guess, gives Gary Marshall the idea to make Happy Days. And so you end up with having Happy Days. And then Laverne and Shirley, because Cindy Williams is also in this, and she goes on to become Shirley.
We can water this down.
Well, yeah, it's exactly what it is. It is absolutely watering down the whole idea of this movie for a TV show. And look, do I watch Happy Days if I catch it on? I guess it's on Pluto these days. I will watch that. Sure, I'm stupid. I know Happy Days inside out. I've watched all of it. I don't know what that says about me, but yeah,
I mean, it is pretty much Richard Dreyfuss's movie.
But that's where I was going to go.
Yeah.
You kind of forget Richard Dreyfuss is sort of the center of the film. And this is before Jaws. This is really early in his career. And I mean, he's great in this, actually.
He's kind of the only one that's not bored.
Yeah.
Like everyone else is a bored teenager with no prospects,
Right. Well, because that's the thing. Like at the end of the film, he's going to go off to the East Coast to college, right? And we all know this film ends in a very interesting way, because most of the night is hijinks, or like people breaking up, or people like fighting and whatever. It's very slice of life, and then everything ends with this drag race. Ron Howard. No, it's the other guy.
It's this other guy.
That's who I was talking about.
Stuck with this girl.
He's the greaser.
Yeah. But he's kind of like the king of the town.
Yeah.
And it's a really small town.
Right. Right. And the girl he's driving around all night is Mackenzie Phillips.
Yeah.
But I can never remember the other guy's name.
Yeah.
And he's basically racing against Harrison Ford.
Yeah, Han Solo.
Well, he is basically Han Solo in this, who is just a townie, and
doesn't have his dog yet.
He does not.
No Chewie at his side.
But at one point
Wookiee at my side.
Jesus. But at one point, he picks up Cindy Williams' character as she's in a fight with Ron Howard, and there's this drag race at the end, and people almost get killed, but they survive and whatever. And then you just have Richard Dreyfuss flying off to the East Coast, and you get like this brief sort of here's what happened to everybody, after the film ends. And so we know that Ron Howard settles down with Cindy Williams, and they have a life together. The nerd with the glasses, I think, gets killed in Vietnam.
Yeah, somebody does. Yeah.
The greaser, I think he gets killed in a car crash.
Was it a car crash or breaking up? Oh no! You know what? I think I'm thinking of a movie that stole from this. The end of Stand By Me.
Oh, yeah, Stand By Me is very heavily influenced by this, yeah. And then we find out that Richard Dreyfuss's character, he becomes a writer and flees to Canada so that he doesn't have to serve in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a grim ending. Here's this nostalgic night. By the way, life goes on, and also people just die. A lot of people die.
I feel like Lucas's point is this is all we cared about at the time, and now it's a very different world.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. It's sort of like, oh, by the way, then the 1960s happens, and a lot of stuff.
It'd be like us making something about the 90s now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, well, actually, okay, so it's 2025. Let's say we made a movie and we set it in, I don't know, 2013, right? Middle of the Obama administration.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, it wasn't like the best of times, but it wasn't the worst of times.
Yeah.
Now is the worst of times. So, I could see people being nostalgic for 2013. I'm not personally, because I was already like 34 and married and, had a regular job and stuff. But I could imagine somebody younger than me being like, yeah, those were the days. God, the music wasn't necessarily great back then, but,
no.
It's not quite like this soundtrack. But, yeah, I could see somebody making a movie nostalgic for 2013 or something.
My favorite thing about this movie is the band. like this board band. They're really good.
Well, so here's the problem. You just said this movie.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because here's the reason I'm giving this long preamble. Yeah. We're not watching American Graffiti. We might go and watch it after this movie, but we're not watching American Graffiti. We're watching a movie called More American Graffiti, which is possibly one of the worst titles you could possibly make. I just used possibly twice, and you know what? I'm going to retract both of them. This is the worst title you could give a film.
You know what? It can only go up from there.
I worry
maybe that's the worst thing.
Dennis, they might have shovels. We don't know where this is going. So there was a sequel made in 1979. It's not written by George Lucas. It's certainly not directed by George Lucas. And it features a whole bunch of the cast from the first movie, except for Richard Dreyfuss, who's just like, I am too big for this. Because by then he had already done like Close Encounters and Jaws and all that stuff. Yeah. So Ron Howard is in this. I know Cindy Williams is in this. They were both at that time on television. Well, now, was he still on Happy Days? I take that back.
I don't know.
I'm not sure if he was still on Happy Days or if he was trying to get off of it. Oh, God, was Ted McGinley on there by then?
Oh, God.
It's really weird when you watch Happy Days in the last couple of seasons and it just doesn't look like the 50s or 60s or anything. It just looks like 1978 or whatever. It's so disconcerting. And Laverne and Shirley was still on. And I think she was actually still on the show. Because, like, you get to that last season of Laverne and Shirley when they're in L.A. and then, like, she's not on it because she was pregnant at the time and they still made the season anyway. And they're like, it's basically the Laverne show now. And on the one hand, Penny Marshall's extremely funny and she's great, but it's really weird.
She's got an L on her lapel.
That whole, once they moved to California, it's a very weird show. I'm like, why did the entire cast move to California on, in this show? Like, it's just weird. It's like, Lenny and Squiggy, why are you here? Why are you like not in Milwaukee? What is there out there for you
if anyone's never going to leave Milwaukee, it's those two.
Right. Not only that, but also it's that sort of thing where like, I guess it's supposed to be it is the 1960s because they have the big Beatles thing on their wall, but it just looks like the early 80s or something. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So this film, they're already on nostalgic television shows. And as far as I know, they have some of the other characters, some of the other actors from the movie who we know are supposed to be dead, right? Now, I know they die in the future or whatever, so I have no idea if this movie deals with the fact that they die or what.
What's important to me is Wolfman in this movie.
I have no idea. So I know a little bit about this film. Like the fact that like they're all in it and some of you guys are supposed to be dead. And also, I think it's like a series of like New Year's Eves or something. I'm not sure.
Oh, this is gonna be bad.
Oh yeah, it's gonna suck. This is gonna.
To us?
Well, I don't know. I think I'm taking a thing that I love and finding a reason to hate it.
Oh. Well, it's such a change from when we watched Jaws 3.
Well, okay, so it does kind of fit. We just watched Jaws 3D, and that ruins Jaws. So let's watch more American Graffiti and have American Graffiti ruined for us.
All right. Is there a dog in this movie?
No.
Is there a wolfman in this movie?
God, I bet not. It would be. Unfortunately, I don't think he comes back.
Is there a love triangle in this movie?
Ooh, does Ron Howard cheat on Cindy Williams? Yeah.
Are they married in this movie?
I think they are.
Okay.
I think they are, yeah.
Oh, all right. Angry Dad. Do we even meet any of their parents?
I don't know that we ever met their parents in the first movie.
Huh. Do you think we'll meet a parent, even happy parents?
Maybe they'll be the parents.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll bet he's the angry dad.
Yeah. Oh, I could totally see that.
Stepping on blocks, jacks. Yeah.
See, there's a possibility that this may be the movie that drove him to directing. I heard an interview with him where he was saying he reached a point where he realized he was only a sitcom star.
Uh-huh.
And maybe this is that point.
Ah.
And he was like, I got to find something to do because I'm not the cute Richie Cunningham anymore.
Yeah.
And I can't just keep on doing, there wasn't the Newhart Harry Anderson route that we... Remember, like all through the '90s, like the people kept getting new shows that
Yeah.
was the same characters. And,
That's
or
true.
The same actors, which was weird.
Yeah. Newhart had was just called Bob,
Yeah.
and Harry Anderson had Dave's World, and Ted Danson had Becker.
Yeah.
I watched all of Becker for some reason.
Anyway, but maybe because of this flopping, maybe that's what's like. He's like, oh, maybe I should find something else to do.
And I don't love all of his films.
Yeah.
Some of them I hate,
Splash was good.
but that's what I'm saying. Splash is good.
Apollo 13.
Apollo 13. I love Apollo 13. I will sit and watch Apollo 13 at the drop of a hat.
Mm-hmm.
What? The Da Vinci Code stuff. Oh, I hate the Da Vinci Code so much.
That kind of man is pretty dark.
I'm going to get out. All right, we've been talking way too long
cool
about this.
car.
Will there be a cool car? Dennis, come on. That's the one thing we're going to get from this. Yes.
Maybe
We're-
the only thing.
We are definitely going to get a cool car.
Okay, well, at least we'll get that.
Yeah.
All right, let's check it out.
Baby love, my baby love, I need you, oh how I need you, but all you do is treat me bad, break my heart and leave me sad. Tell me what did I do wrong, make you stay away so long, baby love, my baby love, been missing you, always kissing you.
I'm almost mad at how much better this was than what I was expecting. I went into this thinking, oh, this is like some cheap cash grab, and it's going to be like, oh, wasn't it great to live through the 60s or some nonsense? No, this is a much more interesting film, and it's like cinematically interesting, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot more George Lucas in this than I was expecting. I thought that this was not made by him at all. I thought this was just like a cheap, cash grab. It was like, they got some guy to come in and just write stuff and whatever. No, quite the opposite. I was surprised at how much he had an input. He produced it. He actually worked on the story. This was not something that he was not engaged in, which when you consider the fact that he had just had Star Wars come out and was making Empire Strikes Back at the time, it's not surprising to find out that he didn't want to direct this. He didn't want to actually sit and write the actual screenplay.
He's also working on something called Radioland Diaries or something like that.
Wait, he made Radioland Diaries?
I think so.
That's not a good movie. Okay. I've never watched Radioland Diaries. If I remember correctly, this is a movie. It's like a murder mystery set at a radio station like the 1930s or something, or 1940s, the age of radio. And it stars the guy who starred in Dream On. Am I thinking of the right movie?
I don't know.
I don't know either. But hey, folks, write in and tell me, am I thinking of the right movie? And should we cover it? Oh, God.
He may have been a producer on that. I don't know.
We were talking earlier today. This movie is a much better film than we were expecting. And, isn't it a shame that George Lucas didn't make more non-Star Wars stuff? And now I'm suddenly remembering he made Howard the Duck.
Yeah.
So I take it all back.
Why are you taking it back?
Have you seen Howard the Duck?
I did.
I saw it as a child. I don't remember it being good. I think we're actually going to cover Howard the Duck at some point because, again, I don't really remember it very well.
I only saw it once a long time ago.
I don't think.
But
it's
Leah
good.
Thompson is in it, and
That's
Leah
true.
Thompson makes everything better.
That's not true. That's not true at all. So, yeah, this movie,
Maybe there's too much Leah Thompson in that movie.
well,
or too much of, whatever.
yeah, we'll watch it at some point. But this movie, one, they had to write out Richard Dreyfuss's character entirely. He didn't want to come in and do this. He's like, yeah, pay me $1 billion or whatever, and they're like, we could just write you out,
I honestly think it's why no one watched this movie though,
Right?
Because the first one feels like it's his movie,
Sure.
even if it's is an ensemble cast. Like he's the kind of the main narrator guy.
It tries instead to tell 4 different stories.
They did a Call to Midwife on this thing.
What? Wait a minute. What does that mean?
I mean, Call to Midwife was about this one midwife, and she leaves.
Yeah.
And it's still on. What? It's been what, like 25 years?
Not
30
quite.
years?
It's been on a while, I'll admit, but not quite 30 years. But no, the original midwife is long gone. The woman who wrote it died. Yes. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, they still call it Well, because you call any midwife.
It says the, though.
Well, whatever.
It's a particular midwife.
No, it isn't. Anyway, it's interesting that, they have to write out Richard Dreyfuss's character, and instead they invent a whole other brother for Cindy Williams to have in this. Actually, I kind of forgot that they were supposed to be brother and sister, to be honest. So yeah, this is an interesting film because, first of all, I assumed it would just be trash. It's actually trying to be more than a nostalgia piece. Or if it's going to be nostalgia, at least it's trying to be interesting. I don't think it's a failure in the way that, we just watched Rick Wakeman's King Arthur on Ice, and that's a failure, right? But I admire what it was trying to do.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a failure, right? I think this is a victim of being the sequel to a film that was groundbreaking at the time, incredibly influential. And now this comes along years later. The person who made it, he's already had like a huge world-shaping film come out. And now you have this sequel.
And the thing is, it did make money.
Yeah.
It was like made for, $3 million, and it made 15.
Right. It's not a flop.
Lucas remembers it as making 10 cents, he says. But I think he's used to making $1 billion
exactly
at that point. So.
Right. So ignore what Lucas actually thinks of this. Yeah. No. So what we have is 4 different stories, and they are all set at New Year's Eve. It's a succession of years, right? So it's New Year's Eve, 1964, 65, 66, 67. And it's basically about the progression of the 1960s. And my first thought watching this was, oh no, is this going to be like that miniseries, the 60s from NBC that we both hate? Ugh. I love that we both hate that thing, even though we saw it separately. Like we had never met each other. Yeah. We didn't know each other at all, but we have the same sensibility of, this sucks.
It's terrible. Oh, they're going back to Greenwich.
Oh my God. I'm so glad we found each other, honey. Because here's the thing. It's not like we don't have our own appreciation for the movements of the time or the music of the time. We're not just haters. We just hate a sort of...
Well, a certain
mythologizing of the time period to the point of self-pleasuring.
Yeah, that and kind of simplifying it,
Yeah,
too.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I don't need to see you...
But what works with... the original American Graffiti is that it's trying to play it as straight as possible. It's not doing Happy Days at all.
No, it's not. It's about a time period and it's nostalgic, but it's not, oh man, weren't things great in those days?
Yeah.
If it does feel that way, it's more like, yeah, and then a whole bunch of stuff happened that we didn't necessarily have control over. It's not even like, oh, all this promise was not fulfilled. It's just like, man, things just kind of fall apart, don't they? Mm-hmm. And that's what this film is about. This film is actually about the falling apart.
Yeah.
How do you end up in 1979 with an America that's kind of depressed, right? And went through the bicentennial, and everybody was just kind of like, this sucks. Why are we even doing this?
Well, not me.
Okay. Yeah, you caught your fish.
I caught my fish.
Yeah, that's a whole story. He caught a fish.
I caught George Washington.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay. I wasn't born yet.
President of the United States, the first one, in fish form.
In fish form in a pond in Flowertown, Pennsylvania.
No, Erdenheim.
Oh, okay. So look, this movie, it's interesting because it comes out in 1979, and if you thought that America was depressed in 1972, oh boy! 1979 is so much worse.
Yeah. Hey, think of it like the first movie, Vietnam's still going on.
Yeah, that's true. Vietnam's still going on. Watergate hasn't happened.
Yeah.
72 to 79, completely different worlds, actually. It's interesting to think about that. They make this sequel, and the sequel is kind of grappling with how disappointed everyone is in the time since not only the movie and when it's set, but also the world since they made the movie, right? Because this movie is absolutely about the failure of the 1960s and the failure of all these promises that people had. It's interesting how kind of it's a depressed film while at the same time often being very funny.
So we should talk about the format in that it starts off with the 4 years or the 4 New Years. And I guess it was 66 goes twice or something.
I mean, they go 64, 65. They usually keep it pretty straight. 64, 65, 66, 67.
Yeah.
But although, actually, you're right, because I think they actually open with 1965.
Yeah.
Because this movie opens with helicopters flying through Vietnam. And I can't remember what song they're playing, but I remember just thinking, oh, this is weird. This feels like Apocalypse Now.
Yeah. People were always wondering, like, what would Apocalypse Now have been like if George Lucas had directed it?
Because he was originally supposed to, right?
Yep.
You know, the screenplay, whatever, I think was John Milius, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of his original work is in the film as we now have it.
Yeah.
Right? Who knows? But yeah, Milius originally wrote Apocalypse Now. By the way, a guy who did not go to Vietnam.
Yeah.
You know, famously. But yeah, Lucas was supposed to be the director, and instead, you know, he was busy doing Star Wars. Coppola, you know, took on Apocalypse Now instead.
Yeah.
And you definitely feel like they would not have been the same type of movie.
But the thing that gets me is that I've always heard this thing, like, so what, you know, what would have it been like if Lucas had directed it? It turns out we can find out like the same week.
Yes.
Like both movies came out the same week.
Isn't that weird? Yeah.
So it opened against that and Life of Brian.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Wow.
And got trounced by
That's
both.
well, boy, but that's a really good weekend at the movies.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine seeing Apocalypse Now, The Life of Brian, and then more American Graffiti, which to be honest is not like, again, this is not a bad film. What Lucas's idea of Vietnam, on the one hand, yes, we know that he looked at guerrilla warfare and all the rest of it, and he kind of, in a way that, like, maybe this isn't the greatest thing in the world, but, you know, he'll say, yeah, the Ewoks are basically the Viet Cong. And I'm like, well, this feels a little patronizing to the Viet Cong, who, by the way, won.
The noble Ewok.
Yeah, that feels weird. That feels so weird. But yeah, look, he looked at the idea of, you know, these are, you know, the people who do, you know, they're doing guerrilla warfare against, you know, the evil empire, the United States. And he's sympathetic.
Yeah.
And honestly, you get that sense of, you know, whether or not he's kind of poking fun at some of the protests, and because you can. I mean, come on. Some people are so far up their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, that doesn't mean you disagree with what's actually motivating them.
Sure.
And I think you can see that in the Vietnam section of this movie, where it just seems like such an absolute mistake. You know, I think you had said it reminded you of at least a little bit of Catch-22.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's got a little bit of that Catch-22. You know, I was thinking about other films from the 80s that were about Vietnam, and obviously, oh God, what is the Kubrick film? Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that kind of comes to mind a little bit.
But I feel like all of the, like, the 80s ones, they aren't really satirical the way this one is.
You don't think Full Metal Jacket has a little bit of a satirical edge?
A little bit, but,
Yeah.
you know, like, it's, you know, like with Kubrick, it's always like, this is how human beings are, you know. And,
Well, now wait a minute. I mean, it's Dr. Strangelove.
yeah, well, in the 60s is different.
Yeah, I
60s
mean,
Kubrick is different than
I see.
post-
I think there is something more humorous. I don't know. Maybe this says something about me. Maybe that's not a good thing, but I think Kubrick is funnier than people give him credit for. And I think there's, you know, like, I'm not saying A Clockwork Orange is funny, but
From, like, Clockwork Orange on, it's kind of like the 50s Hitchcock on, where it's like, they know what they're doing, and a kind of remove, like, it's more cinematic.
But don't you think Eyes Wide Shut is very funny?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there is still that Kubrick remove and all.
Right, but I don't know. But look, George Lucas making a Vietnam War
What I'm
film.
saying is you're wrong.
No, what I'm saying is you're extremely wrong.
No, I'm totally
and totally
right.
suburban and provincial, and you don't know what you're talking about.
No, I'm right.
So look,
You're a hayseed.
hayseed. Hayseed. I grew up at 25th and Aspen. What do you know about?
You're a Zerns girl.
Whatever. Look, I think it's interesting, this idea of what if Lucas had made Apocalypse Now. Oddly enough, if I remember correctly, in Apocalypse Now, you have Harrison Ford has a small role as a guy named Lucas,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the stand-in, you know. it would have been interesting if he instead made this kind of bizarre comedy of Apocalypse Now instead of the whatever you want to call Apocalypse Now. I watch the Vietnam section of this movie and I like it, but it is much more of a black comedy.
Yeah.
And it's much more akin to Altman's MASH than anything else. There's a lot of Altman in here of like that kind of, you had brought up Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville had come out a couple years before this, and that idea of the interweaving storylines, I think that's in there, you know, and yeah, look, it's not quite the same film technique, obviously, but I do feel like there's something kind of lurking in the background there.
And also a kind of like not worried too much about arcs, I think. You know, it's kind of like he's just like, this is a slice of life.
When you say he, do you mean
Lucas?
Yeah. I mean, you know, we're putting a lot of this movie on Lucas. And to be fair, he is more involved in this film than I think people realized at the time. At the same time, he is not the writer. He is not the director.
Yeah.
But he is the shaper of it. And like, that's kind of a problem. Like, how do you divide, you know, George Lucas from the director who actually worked on this?
Well, the breaking up into 4 parts, like the way that it's structured is definitely Lucas.
Yes.
Because the actual director did not want to do that.
Oh, no. I mean, you're absolutely right. Like, Lucas, I think, really actually is the shaper of this film in a way that was not hidden, but, you know, not as obvious if you just look at, like, who directed it, who wrote it. No. Yeah. Lucas is absolutely kind of the driver behind this film. Mm-hmm. So do you think you'd want to see his version of Apocalypse Now?
I don't think it would have been as good.
No.
I think that, I don't know, but it'd be interesting.
It would, yeah. You know what? I almost think it would be more akin to, well, we brought up Catch-22 or, was it How I Won the War?
Yeah.
You know, that film. You know, those kind of black comedies of the late 60s, early 70s about war, you know? Yeah, so this film opens with helicopters flying over, you know, some rice field in Vietnam, although I'm sure it was actually filmed in, like, California or something. It's a lot like MASH, actually.
Yeah.
And, but what I like is it's using that kind of 16 millimeter film. And the entire Vietnam sequences are made using 16 millimeter film. So you have that almost square ratio, right? And the film stock looks grittier, right? So what this movie does is it jumps between film formats, depending on what type of story you are watching. And you have 4 different stories. So you have a film set in 1964. They're all set on New Year's Eve. One is set in 1964, and that is set in their hometown in California, Northern California. It's in Marin County. And it's in CinemaScope. So it's a like super widescreen, and that is all focused on the guy I called the greaser, John.
Yeah.
He's
Milner.
John Milner is the drag racer who we know is going to die on New Year's Eve because he gets hit by a drunk driver.
Although we kind of forgot that.
But we know he's going to die. I forgot how he was supposed to die.
Yeah.
So I just kept watching him doing drag races on New Year's Eve, and like that whole section of the film is he keeps doing these races and you kind of forget, you know, he's supposed to die, and they keep referencing, because this film jumps around in time, they reference, oh, and then John died on New Year's Eve, and isn't that horrible? And I kind of forgot how he died, and the film does a good job of kind of playing with that, and you keep waiting for him to be killed.
Yeah, it's very much the whole Hitchcock thing, like, you know, if you just put a bomb at a table and it blows up, that's, you know, it's only like a second of panic.
Yeah.
But if you showed a person putting the bomb there and then play it out, it's, you know, it's that much tension. And this is like a whole movie of that.
Yeah.
Because you keep waiting for something to happen, and in his case, there's like 3 or 4 times where you're like, oh, is this it? Is this it? Like an engine explodes on a car, like,
you know, the parachute doesn't deploy on his drag car. You know, we keep waiting for him to actually die racing. And yet for him, it's just a normal day, and it lets it play out as a normal day. And we keep waiting for something horrible to happen. But of course, none of the characters know that something terrible is going to happen. And so he's just living his life. and he has his own kind of struggles with, he wants to be a professional racer, and he's being kind of jerked around by these professionals because he's seen as like this amateur, this outsider, and he builds his own cars and stuff. And he has a rival with a guy who looks a lot like Mike Love. It's really it's really distracting. I can't stop thinking about it. He's got the same male pattern baldness.
Yeah.
He's got the same kind of dickish attitude. I just kept thinking, like, wait a minute, because the actor, what is his name, like John LeDuc or something like that, he looks a lot like Brian Wilson next to Mike Love, and I just couldn't stop thinking about it. Now, maybe this is because I've been listening to A History of Rock and 500 Songs.
Yeah.
Okay, obviously it's because I've been listening to that. And it doesn't hurt that the fact that they play at one point Dead Man's Curve, the Jan and Dean song that was written by Brian Wilson and Mike Love and stuff. So, like, you've got that whole vibe going on, right? So, but so you've got, like, the kind of California, 1964, and you have this idea of he feels like maybe his whole future's in front of him, and he's trying to like make out with this girl he thinks is Swedish. We later find out she's from Iceland, whatever. She's a Norwegian. No, that's not right. She's Scandinavian.
Yeah.
They're all Norwegians to me. I don't know. No. So you've got this kind of like early 60s. They're still within that kind of innocence period, right? Even though it's 1964, so a couple of years have gone by. In fact, 2.5 years have gone by since the film American Graffiti was set, and so a lot has happened since then. Like Kennedy has been killed, and Vietnam is really kicking off. One of the kind of plots in the 1964 segment is that one of their buddies, the nerd, Toad Terry, he's been called up. He's going to go off to Vietnam. And he
is gung-ho.
He's very gung-ho about like, yeah, I'm gonna go there and I'm gonna really kill them commies and all that nonsense.
Yeah, like, want me to kill a VC for you?
Oh yeah, he's really obnoxious. I mean, to be fair, that character is obnoxious to begin with.
Yeah.
So it's just like, yeah, okay, whatever, buddy. But so you have like this whole, but like I like that it's all set in CinemaScope, and you have this sense of, because this is the earliest set, it feels different than the rest of the film, right?
Yeah.
It definitely feels like we're in a different time period. I always think about the movie Endless Summer.
Mm-hmm.
This portion of more American Graffiti feels more like this guy would have known those guys, right? He is more tuned into this California culture of surfing and drag racing, and it's like the early Beach Boys records.
And Nazis.
Well, okay. Folks, think about 2 episodes. You're gonna hear our episode on Surf Nazis Must Die. And believe it or not, it does come back around to this. Why do you gotta bring up the Nazis? That's not relevant to the film.
That's all I think of it now.
Look, did Indiana Jones show up in this movie and kick some... Wait a minute, actually he does kind of show up in this movie. So we'll get to that. So, I do like this whole sort of segment of, it feels like a different time period than the other stuff that happens, right? It definitely feels closer to American Graffiti, right? So then you have the next...
And it feels kind of Altman-ish.
Yes. Well, no, there's a couple of things that feel like Robert Altman, because I'm about to talk about the 1965 portion, which is all set in Vietnam, and that's all focused on Terry.
Yeah.
And what I love is, so if the first part was CinemaScope, this part is all in 16 millimeter film. It's shot like the kind of the news footage that they would take of Vietnam at the time. And, we were watching this and we're just like, this feels closer to MASH, the film MASH, right? And not just because...
I didn't say it because I never seen it.
You've never seen MASH?
No.
What?
What? What?
How have you never seen MASH?
I don't know.
Oh my God. I can't even do it for Dennis versus the movies. Oh my God.
I'm sorry.
There's so much you need to learn. Okay. You've watched the television show MASH, right?
Oh yeah, I think I've seen that.
Jesus Christ. All right.
I've seen After MASH.
That's so much worse. What is wrong with you? How is it you've not seen the Robert Altman film MASH, but you've watched After MASH?
I watched all of After MASH. I was so into
Why?
After MASH.
Why?
I don't know. It was a thing.
For who?
I don't know. I'm like, maybe they'll visit the other MASH people. They don't.
At that point, Alan Alda was definitely like checking out like sea creatures or something for Nova.
Yeah.
He was just like, I'm done. God almighty. All right. So you have this whole segment that focuses on like the misadventures in Vietnam, and it is very much like there's a lot of black comedy in this. He wants to shoot himself in the arm or whatever so that he can get out of the war. It's I was thinking about MASH. Like, they don't have him dressing up in drag or whatever, but it was sort of like, I gotta figure out a way to get out of this war, and if I hurt myself, I will be free. And so his whole segment is different ways that people are thwarting him from getting out of being in Vietnam. Whether it's like he wants to accidentally injure himself, or whatever. He's just.
But he starts off like a whole like bombardment.
Oh my god!
They call in jets.
Oh yeah, because he tries to shoot himself and he misses, and they think a sniper is like right in the woods outside of their camp. It's overload. It's very funny. They call in jets. They call in napalm.
At the same time, you're like, wow, is that how he gets killed? And
well, that's the thing. You're waiting the entire film to watch this guy die, because if you watch the end of American Graffiti, he goes missing in action at An Loc. And that's the last you hear of him. And so you assume he dies in Vietnam. You're spending the entire film waiting to watch this guy die somehow in Vietnam. And so you just watch like his misadventures of trying to get out of the war, and everybody being like, no, you're definitely here and we're using you. You're going to have to fly on these med helicopters and stuff, and like pick up wounded and stuff. And it's like, he's going through like this really harrowing stuff, but the whole time he's just like, I hate this, I just want to get out of here. Maybe if I insult my way into like just getting court-martialed or something, I can get out of Vietnam. Like, all he wants to do is just get out and go back to California. That's his entire. Later
there's a football game, and he just picks like the biggest guy to play against, because he sees another guy he's gonna get sent home because he gets injured, and the guy he's playing against breaks his own leg. Yeah. He's like, oh. Yeah, exactly. He can't catch a break. Yeah. Literally. Yeah. So very, very what is it? Catch-22? Yeah, there's a lot of them at the time. You were thinking about Dr. Strangelove, and I was thinking about MASH, and it very much fits that. But I also like the fact that it's all done in this 16 millimeter film, so it's very grainy, right? Yeah. So then the next segment is like New Year's Eve, 1966, and this is all set in California, and this is Debbie. If you remember his girlfriend, Terry's girlfriend back in Marin County, she has gone off to San Francisco and become a hippie. And so it's kind of her misadventures just in that life, right? Yeah, and she's in love with this total loser. Oh my God, this guy sucks. Worst guy. But I don't know a woman who hasn't been attached to a guy like this, including myself, where it's just like, no, he's so cool and he plays guitar and like he's going to totally be a star and isn't he awesome? And everybody's just like, yeah, whatever. And like she just puts up with so much nonsense from this guy. It's terrible. But during this scene, we find out she says, oh, and my boyfriend, he died last year. Yeah. That he had died in Vietnam, and so we just assume that Terry is dead, right? Mm-hmm. Because that's all we had seen was that he had died. So we get like her whole story of just living with these hippies and like living in essentially a commune, and I have to say, when I hear the word commune, I think everybody's living on a farm, and they're all like taking turns milking a cow or weeding. And a commune actually is just a bunch of like people who are about 20 years old living in a house, and they fight over who needs to buy milk. Yeah. That sounds awful. Like, I didn't do that in my 20s because I didn't have to. I just lived at home with my parents. And I was just like, no, actually that's not true. I actually did live in a house with like a bunch of other girls, but it was other girls, right? I didn't live with a guy until I lived with you. And so it was kind of like I didn't have to put up with some of the nonsense. Yeah, living in a commune, that's exhausting. Now that I think about, oh my God, I guess I kind of did live in a commune. Oh no, I didn't think about that. When did you live in a commune? Well, when I was about 22, but I didn't think about it. I just thought like I had a lot of roommates. Oh, that sounds like just roommates, though.
Yeah, well, what's the difference?
I don't know.
But
A
that's
commune seems like a choice.
No, a commune seems like you live on a farm and you all milk a cow. That's my point. But all these hippies say they live in a commune, and like, no, you just live in like one house in a city, and you think you're living like this socialist, a utopia, but you're all just roommates.
Who calls it a commune, though?
The credits.
Oh, okay. All right.
The credits refer to it as commune.
Because I could see Cindy Williams calling it a commune.
Well, we'll get to that. We'll
to
get to
her,
that. Yeah. But anyway, so oh my God, I can't believe I lived in a commune. That sucked. But but so again, it's like New Year's Eve, and her boyfriend gets busted for pot because they are driving down a street in San Francisco and they get pulled over by a cop. The cop is uncredited, but
we know him.
Because
it's Bob Falfa.
It's Bob Falfa. And who is Bob Falfa?
It's Indiana Jones.
It's Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford shows up very briefly in this movie, and you don't recognize him at first because he is like head to toe. He's Chips. Yes,
Yeah.
He's a motorcycle cop. He's got like the brown and tan. He's got like goggles on and the helmet and all that stuff. You don't see him except you pointed out.
You can see the scar.
You can see the scar on his chin.
And you can hear his voice.
Well, once he starts like yelling at them and he pulls them over, and I gotta laugh, man. He arrests the boyfriend for possession, and I'm like, I know. Everybody knows you were like a huge pot dealer.
Yeah.
There's something very and of course everybody it's something very funny about casting him as like arresting people for marijuana possession. I'm just like, I mean, you were selling to the mamas and the papas.
Yeah.
It was kind of fun just seeing him pop up in this very briefly.
He said, "Oh, why do you have to like bust us long hairs?" He's like, "It's my favorite part of the job." Something like that. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Thing is, like, so a few years later in E.T., there's a cut scene where he plays a principal.
Yeah, that's right.
And he is so smarmy and just the worst. And I'm like, I bet he loves these roles. Like he loves to go against his name.
Yeah. And like he rarely ever gets to do it. So yeah, I'm sure he enjoyed kind of doing something that. Although at the time he wasn't really. I mean, he was known. He certainly became a star because of Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know how well known he was. Like, I think he would relish it more now, almost.
When was he in that movie with? Was it Gene Wilder? Where?
Oh, around the same time,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah.
It's like a Western. He plays like a cowboy, and Gene Wilder plays like a rabbi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God, I can't remember what that's called. I kind of want to do it for the show though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's this whole hippie section, and what I like about this is what they do cinematically is it's a lot of panels and split screens and stuff next to each other, and so it's imitating the movie Woodstock, and it's trying to do that whole kind of psychedelic movies of the time. It reminded me a little bit of like some other stuff, like there's a movie called like Medium Cool. That plays around with stuff like that, and it's all about like kind of the music of the time, and like Country Joe and the Fish shows up at one point.
But also it plays with time.
Yeah.
You'll see like the next scene, like something pop up and on the side of the screen.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool.
Yeah, I actually really like this, the way that they play with like narrative and continuity and stuff, and having these different scenes happening at the same time on the screen.
Apparently this was edited by Marsha Lucas.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Go explain.
So George Lucas's wife at the time, I don't know if they were still at the time, but she apparently is a big part of straightening up Star Wars.
Yeah.
From the mess he had made.
Well, she's an editor,
Yeah.
right? And she was a very good editor.
Mm-hmm.
And so apparently she kind of put this whole section together and edited it. And it's great.
Yeah.
I really like the way it unfolds. And, kind of her story is she spends a lot of time trying to get her boyfriend this guitar gig for this, like a real playing band. But instead she ends up just kind of falling in with the band while trying to raise enough money to get her boyfriend out of jail.
It's a little bit like Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Oh, it is a little bit like Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, where it's just like, actually, no, she's more interesting than her boyfriend. Her boyfriend sucks.
Yeah.
And just like Joel Maisel sucks. So, it's all about like, no, I'm actually going to kind of get into this scene and leave him behind.
Yeah.
And she ends up kind of falling in with this band who, there are two leaders, I guess, to the band. There is this Motormouth guitarist, and then there is this other guy who...
Sonny Bono looking guy,
but he's played by Scott Glenn,
Yeah.
who has been in a million things. You've seen him. Actually, it's funny, you had brought up Nashville at one point when we were watching this, because it has like those interweaving narratives, and Scott Glenn's also in Nashville. So you have that whole section going on, and like kind of the fallout. And so she refers back to like, my boyfriend a year ago died, and he's missing in Vietnam and whatever. But then the other story is, New Year's Eve, 1967. And you have the married couple of, Ron Howard and Cindy Williams. And I'm trying to think of their characters' names, but...
I think it's Billy Cunningham and Shirley... I can't remember.
First of all, it would be Richie Cunningham.
Yeah, sorry.
But no, you're not wrong.
Sorry, I'm a basketball fan.
Billy Cunningham.
Sorry.
But look, you're not wrong, because they're not that dissimilar necessarily from like the characters they were playing on television. But that's also because those characters were based on their performances in. Yeah,
the thing is,
it's too recursive almost.
When I finally saw American Graffiti, it took me a long time to see it. When I finally saw it, I was so excited because I'm like, because I like Ron Howard, I like Cindy Williams.
Yeah.
I'd never seen her in anything other than Spaceship, which we will do someday. In movies. And when I finally saw it, I was like, I love this movie, but I hate their characters.
Oh, they're annoying.
Yeah, they are the most annoying, and it's kind of like a couple in high school that you're like, you hear all about their drama. It's like, I don't want to be anywhere near these two people.
And now all their drama has been funneled into a marriage.
Yep.
And it's look, if you hate this is why you would hate the show 30-something, because it's basically the same thing.
Oh my God.
So yeah, it's true. Just
my
watch.
Instincts were correct.
And I say that as somebody who owns all of 30-something on DVD. Yeah, I know. Go ahead, hate me. I don't care.
I was feeling the love before. But
Nope,
now,
not at all.
Boy.
So yeah, they are like at each other's throats, because to be fair, she wants to get out of the house. She's got these two little kids, and she's just like, look, if I can just put them in daycare for a couple hours a day, I can go work as a receptionist at this doctor's office, and I can actually get out of the house and be a person. And of course, he's just like, no, you're supposed to be a wife and mother, just like my mom was a wife and mother, and why do you want to leave the house? That's wrong.
I'm the man of the house. Look at the mustache.
Exactly. Yeah. It's come on, man. Look, did this conversation happen a lot?
Yeah.
Obviously. It happened all the time. Like, I don't think there's anything wrong about the characterization of what's going on between these characters. That doesn't mean I don't want to punch Ron Howard through a wall. Now, having said that, her character is so wishy-washy about things, because she'll stand up and fight and like go against him, but then as soon as she's like, outside of her comfort zone, she's just like, no, wait, why are you burning a draft card? This is against the law. Yeah. And I'm like, are you supposed to be 24 or are you supposed to be like 40? What are you doing here? Okay, so what happens is, like, they have a big fight, and they're supposed to have this Christmas Eve party. Sorry, I keep saying Christmas Eve because it said but it's New Year's Eve, and they're supposed to have this New Year's Eve party, and they're having this fight, and she's just like, you know what, the hell with this, I'm going to my brother's house.
The kids are crawling into the fish tank.
Okay, the kids having like a complete like chaos, and like they're throwing hamburgers, and they're crawling in the fish. Like, actually, that's really well done. I have to say that is such a. The children are chaos, and if you don't know how to handle them, they are going to do terrible things. Like, I'm terrified of small children personally, because I'm like, they're going to crawl into a fish tank. Of course they're going to. This is exactly what they're going to do. They're going to set themselves on fire. I don't like being around small children because I don't know how to deal with them. So that whole segment actually rang very true to me, because, yikes. So, yeah, she runs off and she goes to her brother, who is not. This is not her brother in the original movie. This is like a different brother because
younger brother.
Sure, he's a younger brother because they had to like invent a character, and that's fine. Anyway, so he goes to school and he's part of an anti-war action, and they have these protests at the university. And what I appreciate about that, okay, so first of all, I didn't even bring up like. As far as like the aspect ratio, this is just regular widescreen. This is the one that's like the most conventional sort of filming style, right? Especially for like 1979. So she goes off to her brother's place and he's like, all right, I'm going to go out of the house and whatever. But, he calls her up and says, oh, I forgot my wallet. You need to bring my wallet. And it turns out he wants his draft card so he can burn it. And she's just like, I can't believe you're going to do this. This is so like illegal and whatever. So the cops come to bust up the protest because like, for the most part, the film is kind of like the kids aren't wrong, but they're kids and like, it's kind of stupid and whatever. And like, I kind of, as a middle-aged woman, I watched some protests. I'm just like, I agree with you, but kids, whatever. It's the same sort of thing. I'm like, you're not going to like win over anybody, but like, you're not wrong, but fine. That's just me being cranky, right? But when the cops show up and they immediately just start beating these kids.
A black cop first. And I wondered at that choice.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The very first violence you see from cop, I mean, because you don't really see Han Solo do anything. But,
no, he's just roughing up a guy who's very annoying, and you're kind of like, yeah, get that guy. Yeah.
But the very first blood drawn is this one black guy hitting a white guy, and I'm like, why do that?
Well, that's interesting though, because it kind of says, if you join the cops, you get to enact state violence, right?
Yeah.
And so, do you sacrifice your solidarity with a minority community by joining the police? A lot of people would say no. Yeah. It's not my place to say, frankly. But I think, the question is there that other people will pose.
It's the Brooklyn Nine-Nine problem.
It is. No, that's exactly what it is. Yeah. So, these cops come in and they start busting heads. And that happens multiple times where the kids will then regroup. And so Cindy Williams gets caught up with them, and she, because she's a little bit older and she's married and has kids, she's just like, I'm not supposed to be here. This is ridiculous. And Ron Howard is like kind of scouring the city trying to find her, and they want to reconcile or whatever. And they both end up getting caught up in this demonstration activity. And what I like about it is, multiple times he's just like, no, look, I sell insurance. I'm a respectable member of the middle class. I vote Republican. And the cops don't care. They still beat him.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't care. You're at this place and I'm angry. So I'm going to beat you. Mm-hmm. And how many times have we seen that happen in the last couple of years? Yeah. So like this whole section, sometimes it plays into farce, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, nothing has changed in 50 years.
We do see a cop going to the bathroom, though.
Okay, there is one. Again, there are a lot of funny moments in this, and
which I wonder if that was in Quentin Tarantino's mind for Pulp Fiction.
Oh,
I don't know. It just reminded me of John Travolta.
Right, when they catch Yeah, at one point they stumble on a cop, like, during the whole, like, riots and everything. One cop decides to use the bathroom and he's sitting on the toilet and they walk in on him. Which is not a scene I was expecting at all.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they have this whole encounter with the cops. And I do like the whole idea of your respectability doesn't matter when people with truncheons want to beat you.
Yeah.
Because as far as they're concerned, you're like everybody else. I think that's something to keep in mind. Yeah. So yeah, you have these interweaving storylines, and you keep waiting for these deaths, right? And you keep waiting for these bad things to happen. What I find interesting in the film is, there are a lot of false starts. As we said, there's more than one drag race, car crash, or whatever, or things go wrong, and you just keep thinking, oh, is this the time John dies? And he doesn't, right? Yeah. There's a lot of stuff with Terry, and you keep thinking, like, oh, is he going to get accidentally, like, killed by one of his, own people? And you keep waiting for him to die. And it all builds to a point where, he's trying to get back at his CO.
In fact, he's with, like, one of the pharaohs, like the gang members from the first movie.
Yeah.
They're both in Vietnam, and they're, like, friends now. Mm-hmm. And that guy gets shot at one point.
That's a great scene, though.
Yeah.
Like, they're both on a helicopter, and the one guy gets shot in the chest, and he just bleeds out. And it's really well done. I really like that scene.
Because they end up getting this pilot to fly them around, and this guy's all gung-ho. He's like, oh, I'm going to put an American flag for each mission we finish, and I volunteered us for this one. And they're like, what the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah. We don't want this. Are you crazy? But we keep waiting to see this guy die. And at one, towards the end, he has this whole thing where he's going to get revenge on his commanding officer who's giving him latrine duty, and like there's a visiting congressman and stuff. And so you assume he's going to be killed off because he has this whole cake thing. He has a cake made, and he's gonna give it to them, and you figure he's gonna like have a bomb in the cake or something, right? And then they cut the cake, and the cake doesn't explode. What explodes is the latrines, where of course we saw him go into because he's had latrine duty, and you think, oh my god, we just saw him die. We knew he was supposed to be missing in action. And
his guy, the guy says like, oh, the VC must have like
booby trapped it. Yeah. And of course, the actual prank is he took all of the waste from the latrine and it dumps on the commanding officer and stuff. But you just like, did he die? What happened? And like the same sort of thing of the 1966. It's like, is she going to get back with the boyfriend? And she's just like, he's cheating on her, and like a big bar fight breaks out, and she's just like, she joins the band instead, and goes on the road with them, and like that's fine. She kind of finds herself, right? The couple in 1967, they go through this whole getting arrested by the cops and everything. And there's a wonderful thing where they get broken up, and the women and the men are going to be separated, and she's on a bus, and it's her and a bunch of
probably the best scene.
It's the best scene. Where she's on this bus with a bunch of other like younger people. She's older than them, and they're all students, and a couple of young women who are African American. They start singing "Baby Love," the Supreme song, and they're just kind of keep, cheering themselves up by singing this song. And the female officer comes on to the bus and starts like, beating them and saying, you can't sing. So then it's great because then, the Cindy Williams character.
And she looks like a total Nazi. I mean,
oh, yeah. How was she not played by Mary Warnoff?
I know.
Like, seriously. If she had been, I would have been like, that would be fine. But, it would have been perfect. But so as they're getting beaten, the Cindy Williams character starts singing "Baby Love," and the whole bus starts singing it, and it's a really great scene. Actually, it's wonderful where all these people are singing like this Motown song as this moment of defiance, right? Yeah. And it's that American myth of music is this common thing that we can all kind of draw upon, right? But they end up taking over the bus and stealing it. And Ron Howard sneaks, he gets into like another altercation with the cops, and he's able to sneak onto the bus, and they're able to drive away. And so the two respectable middle class parents, middle, whatever, they're able to kind of like I don't know, like take on some of the energy of the late 60s, right? And have sympathy for these kids, even though, that's not like their thing.
They're still voting Republican next time.
I'm sure they are. They're going to vote for Nixon. They absolutely are. It sucks.
But he has something to brag about at his next bowling.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's basically what it is, though. I mean, that's what's kind of infuriating. It's just like you see the potential for change. You see these young people coming together. Like, you're even related to some of them. You know that it's just not going to stick.
Yeah.
And it's not going to stick in part because they have this wonderful thing, and then like they get into another fight. as they're on their own again about like, what are their lives going to be? And they have like, she threatens to divorce him again. And like this keeps happening through the film of like, they get these huge fights and then they reconcile. They get these fights and they reconcile, and then happens. And like that's going to be the rest of their lives.
Which is what happened in the first movie. So.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that they're actually right that, frankly, some people, they never stop fighting. Mm-hmm. And to be fair, no relationship is without fights. There's always fights.
And if you had those monster kids, like...
Are there any good kids? It seems exhausting. Yeah. So you have all these, different things. And then, at one point they cut back to the Vietnam section, and it turns out Terry sabotaged the whole thing. And he is not dead. Yeah. He is AWOL.
He is AWOL in a Hawaiian shirt.
He is walking off into the jungle. That's the last we see of him. And to be fair, when they said he was missing in action, that doesn't mean he's dead. Yeah. That means he's gone. Mm-hmm. So it kind of implies that he's like, I'm just going to, like, maybe I'll walk to Europe. I don't know. Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, at first I was kind of like, oh, I kind of was waiting to see him die. And then I'm just like, well, no, that's fine. Yeah. Actually, good for him. Yeah, go live it up wherever. So then the film kind of ends with, we cut back to 1964 with John. He has won his race. He actually won the race, and he had this little interaction with the Icelandic girl and Eva. Yeah. And yeah, there was a dicey moment where he was making moves on her, and she's just like, I don't want this, whatever. And it has that very of the time morality of, I invited you into my car. What did you think was going to happen? And like, I'm sure at the time everybody agreed with that. And you watch it now and you go, no, come on, man. If she says no. But he kind of reconciles with her, and he has the final race, and he wins the final race. And it kind of feels like maybe everything's going to be okay for him, right? What I like about this film is the film ends with him in 1964 on New Year's Eve.
In his classic yellow
car from the first movie. And he's just driving down a road somewhere in Northern California. We just kind of see him dipping on these hills, and we just see a dip. And that's it.
And you see a truck coming.
Yeah, we see a truck is oncoming, and we don't really see anything more than the truck is oncoming, because the truck goes into the dip too, and we can't see what happens. And the film just stops there, and then it puts up some of the stuff from the other film. That he was killed by a drunk driver.
December 1964.
And Terry went missing in Vietnam, and this is, the other couple are living together and whatever. And Debbie is now a country western singer.
And I think before it just had the guys.
It was just the guys.
And so this time it actually,
it incorporates her story. You know what? I like that.
Yeah.
But like, I like how this is more elegiac than anything, and it's sort of like, yeah, no, he definitely dies. This doesn't change the story at all. It doesn't really change Terry's story. It just clarifies that maybe he isn't dead. He just, went AWOL.
Of course, he's walking around a war zone in a Hawaiian shirt. So.
Yeah, who knows what happens to him? We don't know. We don't know. Does he get out of Vietnam alive? Maybe not. Yeah. But I like it. We don't have to see the car wreck. Mm-hmm. We don't have to see him die. And there's something so nice and quiet, and he's so just on his own in that moment. It's very sad, but at the same time, there's something I really like about it.
Well, the whole movie kind of extends that mood.
Yeah.
But through these crazier times.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
like none of these characters have really changed, but, the world is changing really fast around them.
Well, that's what's... Yeah, I mean, have these people changed at all, given the way the world is changing? The only one who really changes maybe is Debbie.
Yeah.
And she's the only one who really adapts. And, everybody else either gets killed or just sort of settles into bland, suburban, married, we're raising our kids and voting Republican and joining the PTA. And the thing is, that's not inaccurate. A lot of people went and did that, right?
Yeah.
Your rock and roll youth subsumes to, worrying about braces.
What do you think about the changing aspect? I mean, like, do you think it always works?
I thought it worked in this. Yeah. I like when a film changes aspect ratios in a way that reflects something as opposed to just being random. This was not random. You go to watch a movie sometimes, especially an action movie, and they'll kind of change the aspect ratio for action scenes because they want to shoot it for IMAX.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Batman movies do this. Christopher Nolan does this, and I find this very annoying, but he's not the only one. And it's just like, oh, now we're in the IMAX scene, and like now it's really big, and it's like all over your eyes, And
then there was the whole Oppenheimer black and white color thing.
Well, I still don't know that was always like, I don't know that the black and white versus color always made sense, but I don't hate it.
Yeah.
I really like Oppenheimer.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I don't think that it was always logical when it was one or the other. This was always consistent. And this always felt like there was a reason it was made the way it was, right? So that the Vietnam stuff was imitating, the news footage. And the hippie stuff was imitating kind of the movies, like very hippie movies of the time. And the CinemaScope, I think that the whole point of that was because it was trying to reach back to the other film. It was more of an obvious continuation of. And so it felt very cinematic, right? And it felt like we're of this time, doing CinemaScope is something that feels pre-1965, really. And it's more of like the spectaculars, like these big films, right? And so that when you have the 1967 and it's just regular widescreen, this is just a movie made in 1979.
Yeah.
And it's about kind of the concerns of people who are alive at that time, where they're all kind of teetering on the edge of divorce, and they're thinking more about like, well, what do we do about our kids instead of like what our youth was? I think it works. I think it works great, actually. I think, at the time critics hated it and they thought it felt chaotic. I don't think it's chaotic at all. I think it makes total sense. And I think it's worth playing with things like aspect ratios and film stock quality to create moods and to say, this is a different story from the other one.
What if you cut Debbie's story?
Why?
Like, that's the thing. I feel like because there's 4 stories, I feel like some of the stories bleed into each other.
But don't lives bleed into each other?
Yeah, but like I mean, as a film, like 4, like, I feel like 3 would have made more sense.
Why? Why would you cut out Debbie? Is it because she wasn't as important in the first film?
And I feel like it doesn't seem to go as well with the other stuff.
So here's my argument for keeping Debbie's stuff. I have 2 arguments. One, I think it's good to have a segment centered on a female character.
Yeah.
Because especially one that is not supposed to be a wife and mother. You want to have somebody who, turned on, tuned in, dropped out, whatever. You want to have somebody who actually went and was actually part of the scene when it was happening, because these characters all live in Northern California. It would be weird if somebody didn't go off and become part of that.
I don't mean cut her. It's more that I felt like her story felt kind of like it dovetailed with Cindy and Ron Howard's.
No, I feel like they're very different stories.
But I mean, like, so they're, communes are in both. And
yeah, they are, but like they're focusing on different aspects.
But I felt like that was confusing. Like it was hard to kind of follow which story was going on with those 2. Whereas the race and Vietnam were so totally different.
Okay, so for me, the difference is, they're both kind of, because like one follows on the other, but I think, so what you're responding to is the fact that the 67 story, it has them going up against Vietnam War protesters. But I don't think the Vietnam War protesters are the same thing as the hippies in San Francisco. Neither want to be a part of the war, but the hippies in San Francisco are doing a completely different thing. And that's really more about people who are dropping out of society to make music, to live in communes, to reject society. And it's not just we're students who don't want to go fight in a war. And it's not just, people who are slightly older and, more suburban or whatever, and they're responding to the kids around them. And it's not about the police violence, really. This is about a completely different group of people who are not interested in living a conventional lifestyle. Because you're saying, oh, they're also, in the fourth segment, her brother and stuff are living in a commune. No, they're not. They're just roommates in a apartment. They're not like 10 people living in a house and nobody has a real job. And, Debbie is working as a stripper and, her boyfriend is like an unemployed musician. Like they're living a completely bohemian lifestyle in a way that the college students are just college students. I think it's a very different story. And the fact that like the resolution for her is to drop the boyfriend and join this band, and they're going to go on the road and they're going to like go spend, New Year's Day up on a mountain or something. That's like a totally different thing than what the students are doing. I think it works. I do. I think it's trying to encompass a whole bunch of, different lives that were happening in California at the time.
So is this as good as American Graffiti?
No. Because American Graffiti is more constrained. It is about one night and about a group of people who know each other.
That's what I'm talking about, is that this feels like it's experimental, and I feel like it kind of fails because I don't know, like it's not clear. I don't know.
I don't agree. I don't think it fails. It is experimental, but I don't want to say you're wrong because you're seeing something I'm not seeing. Okay. But for me, it doesn't feel like it fails. Right? Like, is it as good as American Graffiti? No, but I don't always feel like you have to, like, it's very different from American Graffiti. Like, even in the ways that it tries to be the same because it's using all these pop songs from the time, and it's using music, and like Wolfman Jack is still there in the 1964 version, right? I feel like it's trying to do something different than American Graffiti, because American Graffiti is one night. It's one night in 1962 at the end of summer vacation before all these kids have to become adults, right? And now this is saying, okay, what happened when you became adults? Did you become what you wanted to become? I think it's asking a different question. And it's kind of saying, okay, 1962 was a different world. That was before the Kennedy assassination. That was before the Beatles. That was before hippies, before Vietnam.
I'm just talking about the format of the film. I'm not talking about the content of the film at all. I'm talking about...
I don't know if there's a difference.
No, but I'm just saying, I feel like it's kind of cool to tell different stories, like essentially film like 4 different movies. Yeah. And then mix it all together but in the same rhythm, so it's always in the same order. There's a cool idea there or something, but I feel like it's not tight enough for it to work as a great movie.
What would you have done differently, do you think?
I think somehow mix the second and third, or second and fourth stories.
Well, you mean the third and fourth, the hippies and...
Oh yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, and the couple. Okay. I still don't agree. I think it's good that they're separate stories, because I don't think we have to identify hippies being the same as the war protesters. There's a lot of cross-pollination. I don't think they're always the same thing. I think being like part of like communes and artist communities and the rest of it is not the same thing as protesting a war, or being like a nascent communist or whatever. Like, they're not unrelated, but I don't think they're the same story.
I don't know.
Okay.
Or maybe it's just the stakes.
Okay.
Like, I feel like there's 3 of these have real stakes, and I feel like hers doesn't feel like it's as high as stakes.
Well, what do you think are the real stakes of the final story?
Well, it's the stakes of two major sitcom stars, and yeah, they're annoying, but they're still sitcom stars. We love these two. I don't know. I'm trying to come up with I'm trying to see is this a great movie? And I'm not sure if it's a great movie. I'm not sure why it's not. And I feel like it's something. It's not. And I think it's partly maybe the director. I mean, this is their second movie, after Jaws 3, where we have a guy who just doesn't make movies suddenly directing a movie.
True.
And I don't know how much directing he did after this. Whereas the last guy, he just did the one because he sucked. But
do you think he really directed this? Or do you think Lucas kind of really directed this, kind of like the whole poltergeist thing?
Yeah. What's the poltergeist thing?
Well, there's a lot of people who think that Tobe Hooper didn't really direct Poltergeist. It was him, right? Who's director? Yeah. There's a lot of people who think he didn't really direct all of Poltergeist, that Spielberg sometimes stepped in and actually directed, especially the really scary scenes. I don't know that I entirely believe that, but I also don't entirely disbelieve it.
It definitely feels Spielberg-y.
Yeah, doesn't it? There's certain things that the camera does where I'm just it feels more like that doesn't feel like Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
So there are times in this where I'm just as you point out, Marshall Lucas, did some stuff in here. I wonder how much George Lucas was actually kind of pulling the strings on this more than he lets on, because he didn't direct The Empire Strikes Back.
Nope.
He made it, but he didn't direct it, which means he could have been checking out the editing bay. He could have been, hands-on on this more than we realize.
And it sounds like even with Star Wars, some of the best scenes, acted scenes, was Gary Kurtz, as a second unit guy.
Yeah, and how much was Carrie Fisher, rewriting on the fly, especially in Empire. I think she. Anyway, yeah. Look, films are collaborative.
Yeah.
They're not always just one person's vision, unless you're like Kubrick or somebody, or Wes Anderson. And even that's not always true.
And this definitely has Wes Anderson experiment vibes.
Yeah, because the whole aspect,
French Dispatch and
all of the playing with the aspect ratios, that's very Grand Budapest Hotel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't really thought about it, but yeah, I think there is something there. So, oh yeah, what was it you wanted to say about Wolfman Jack showing up?
Oh, just I was hoping he would, and he doesn't really. It's just his voice.
Yeah.
But I was hoping he would, because in a year, I think it's Battlestar Galactica 1980.
Oh God. Okay.
So Battlestar Galactica was a TV show, the late 70s, I think 79 or something. And of course it was remade and probably better. But the first episode was pretty great, and it had these amazing effects and all. But then they cheaped out, and it got worse and worse and worse really fast. And so finally they get to Earth. And while on Earth, they bump into Wolfman Jack.
That's weird.
And he's a prominent figure. It's he's representing humanity or something.
God, that's weird.
And I don't remember much about this, but I was just curious about what Wolfman Jack was doing in the late 70s, early 80s to become such a part of our popular.
Okay, so we ask our questions, and I forgot to address it before.
Oh yeah.
No dogs.
No dogs.
I don't remember any dogs. Cool car. Plenty of cool cars. Death.
We didn't talk about that crazy van that she kept driving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They keep, hitting things on purpose.
Yeah,
it's fun.
That was fun.
So, Angry Dad. Ron Howard is the angry dad.
We guessed that.
Yeah, I was right. I was very right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Death. Definitely a lot of deaths.
Yep.
Especially the Vietnam section. But,
yeah.
So.
Love triangle. Is there a love triangle?
Debbie's boyfriend cheats on her.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
I guess that works.
Yeah, but he's slime.
He's a
Screw him.
jerk. Forget him. Yeah.
Lance. His name
Lance.
is
Oh, he
Yeah.
stinks.
He's this long-haired guy in a purple shirt, and oh man,
Very punchable.
yeah.
All right, so that was More American Graffiti, starring Candy Clark, Ron Howard, Paul the Mat, Charles Martin Smith, Cindy Williams, and Bjorn. Who else was in this? Mackenzie Phillips actually shows up.
Oh, by the way, Anna Bjorn.
Yeah.
She played Eva, the Icelandic.
Yeah.
She somehow, I didn't really get the story, but somehow was involved in Whitey Bulger getting arrested. The Boston mobster.
wait, hold on. The Icelandic chick
Yeah.
in the drag race.
Yep. For some reason it was a blip that came up when I don't know.
Okay, that is wow.
Sorry.
And Scott Glenn.
And Scott Glenn also caused the mobster to get.
Sure. Written and directed by Bill Norton, although George Lucas and Gloria Katz also, I guess, like worked on it, but a lot more George Lucas than you think.
Yeah, it sounds like George Lucas said like he had this idea and went to Bill Norton and said like, write this. If I like it, you can direct it or something. And it sounds like that's just how he and Spielberg would operate too. Like they liked just kind of like, you know, saying like, these are all our ideas. They just spit out a whole bunch of ideas and they say, give us a script.
And that worked with Indiana Jones.
Yeah.
You know, they came up with a bunch of crazy ideas and, you know, either Lawrence Kasdan or, I mean, eventually Tom Stoppard,
It sounds like they just have these scenes built in their head.
Yeah.
And they like just connect the scenes for us. Yeah.
And when it works, it works. And when
Yeah.
it doesn't, yikes.
Yeah.
So, all right. Yeah, you can, of course, follow us on social media. We're Mary VS Movies on all of your major platforms. And we even have a website now, maryvsmovies.com. Yeah, it's great. Alana put it together for us. We are very happy. What else? Let's see. We're on all of your major platforms. You can rate and review the show. We're on Apple Podcasts. We are on Spotify. We're on YouTube. Yeah. You know, you can always, you can always get our RSS feed and put it into whatever your podcatcher of choice is. We, of course, have a Patreon where you can help support the show. For $3 a month, you help pay for the cost of making this show because, as you know, we are not a network. We do not have ads. We just do this ourselves. And now that, you know, Alana is running our website, we want to pay her. So, yeah, this costs money. You know, we have the Zoom account, etc. So for $3 a month, patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. And if you do that, you get access to our whole other show, Hollywood Avalon, where we watch Arthurian movies. We just watched Rick Wakeman's Opus. What else would you call it? King Arthur on Ice. Yeah, Lumpus. Look, it's an insane idea.
Yeah.
It's basically Spinal Tap. It doesn't necessarily work, but I admire it.
He swung for the fences.
He swung for the fences, and then the fences fell over, and everybody just kind of spilled everywhere. Yeah, King Arthur on Ice. But it's not just that. We watch Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We watch Bugs Bunny cartoons. We watch old World War II propaganda films called like King Arthur Was a Gentleman. We watch Transformers: The Last Night, a Transformers movie.
A Twilight Zone episode.
We watched a Twilight Zone episode recently. Yeah, we watch all kinds of stuff. If it's Arthurian, we will watch it and we will review it for the show. So yes, patreon.com/MaryVSMovies. All right, our next episode is 199. And Dennis, you are finally getting what you have been begging for.
Finally.
What is it?
Lord of the Rings.
No! We've watched what?
Krull.
Krull.
Is it Krull?
We'll do Krull at some point.
Good.
No, we're doing Q the Winged Serpent.
Q the Winged Serpent.
Yes. Congratulations, we're finally doing Q the Winged Serpent.
Ah,
All
finally. Classic movies.
Yeah. All right. Well, until next time.
Bobby, whatever you do, don't hit those trash cans.